Hello. Okay, we have yet another Ask Us Anything session. Today, we have two special guests. There is Scott on one hand. There is Scott. Okay. He's a person who he's on almost all streams, on every single session, when somebody says Argo CD, his face starts boiling, right? And you can see the steam going out of his ears. By the way, that's why he wears headphones. He doesn't hear anything from them. It's just for you not to see the steam going out, like in cartoons, right? That's how passionate he is, and he's a very violent person by nature, right? And then we have, there we go. We have Kostis, which is a real live Argo CD contributor, right? That thinks that Flux is shit. And he doesn't look like he's violent, but I see him practice with knives in his free time. So now, I believe in human rights. I don't believe in violence. We're doing this remote. They cannot touch each other.
Yet.
Okay? Yet. I already checked before the stream that Scott is not coming to KubeCon. Kostis is, so they will not be in the same place anytime soon.
Come on.
Well, no, that's for the best. That's for the best.
You should advertise this and say, look, if you don't like a virtual fight, you can come at KubeCon and see them fight together, but Scott is not coming, so okay.
Yeah. If you come to Salt Lake City, we can do it there.
Okay, I might come. Okay, Salt Lake City then.
And both of them seem calm, but that's a farce. They're just pretending. You'll see. You'll see later. Anyways, you know the deal. Kind of like ask any questions you want. That can be about Argo CD or Flux. It can be about GitHub, or it can be about anything else. That depends on the level of violence you want to see here. I dare any of you watching this to say something like, this one is shit, this one is better. I dare you to do that. Please do that. Okay. So that's the setup for today's episode. And now you start typing questions, right? Otherwise it will end.
Viktor, let's say something. So for those that missed it, KubeCon is next week in Amsterdam. So if you're going
the week
there,
after next.
In 2 weeks.
After next.
Yeah.
If you come, you can meet us, at least me and Viktor. And maybe we will say that we will do also another Ask Me Anything after KubeCon, and explain or comment upon the things that we saw at KubeCon, ArgoCon, FluxCon, PlatformCon, or whichever con they have. So don't miss this one and don't miss the next one.
Yeah, I mean, you're either watching this one and you're not missing it, or you're not watching it and you already missed it. So let's say for the next one, don't miss it, right? Okay. Sorry, that's my saying low battery. Okay, anyways, start typing a question, ask anything, and until you do so, I'm going to ask any of you to tell us what the heck are you working on. Scott is working always on Backstage. He doesn't do anything else, and Kostis is always working on Argo CD, but who knows? They might surprise us.
Wait. No, I want to say some stuff, okay? So before we started the call, we're talking about AI and testing. So I want to bring those two together here. And I have a request from all the people that are vibe coding right now, okay? And they are searching for a good idea. Like they have the tools, but they don't know what to create. I have an idea, and I want you to implement it. And I'm going to say that the company I'm working for is already, looking at this. So we need to be quick. Otherwise, somebody else will release it. So what I want...
Is that company going to code it without agents?
I'm not saying. I cannot comment about.
Okay, if that company is going to code it without agents, then we don't need to hurry. We will be faster. So, okay.
Okay, so testing an AI. There are many tools right now, and then many frameworks and many plugins that do the very simple thing where I'm working on a single service, and I run the tests for that single service. And you can run the tests on the ID, on GitHub Actions, on Jenkins, on Kubernetes. I don't care. What I'm missing, and I haven't seen a solution, please tell me if there is I want to know what the tests are doing for the other services. Either the services that depend on my service or the services that my service depends on. So I want a fancy system that does two things. First of all, before I commit, it tells me what my own tests will do if they fail, plus what the other tests of the other services will do. And also after I commit, I want to do the same thing. I want to know which services are affected by the thing I just committed. I know my code is affected. I know this. Everybody knows this. I want to know about dependencies. So imagine you're in a big company that has, microservices and has front end, back end, billing, payments, whatever. I want to know the dependencies. Does this exist? Yes or no?
So you want to know whether what you did is backwards compatible.
Yes, that's, let's say, the end goal. But I would like to know, if some tests took, 2 seconds and now they take 40 seconds because I messed something. Like, I introduced something that is wrong. So maybe there are no failures, but there is like a timing issue or something.
I have a different proposition.
Wait.
Okay.
Does this exist first? Question number 1. Does this exist today?
I honestly don't know. I don't know. Scott, do you know?
Kind of. What you're talking about is contract testing in my mind. I don't think that you really want anything beyond contract testing here, because contract testing is really what you care about, right? And then the question is how do you build those contracts and whatever? And there are tools that help building those contracts. But contract
testing is the best case scenario, because the worst case scenario is that one of my changes was in a library that other people are using.
But that's still contract testing, right?
Okay,
just on a library level.
If contract mean everything, then yes. I'm not saying that it's only API based. So it can be library based as well.
Correct. That's where, so my general opinion when it comes to these things is that is exactly where I think that the name CMDB got a really bad name for itself as being legacy, but I view Backstage almost as like a CMDB many times, right? Where you have the relationship between all these different resources and you have to have your dependency graph built out, right? I personally like Backstage as an IDP, so I believe that the Backstage catalog can be that, right? You can model your libraries and your services and your APIs and all the relationships between them. What you need is an API that gives you that, be that a classical CMDB, something like a ServiceNow, right? Or whatever, or be that something like Backstage or something homegrown, whatever it is. Once you have that dependency graph built out, right? My general approach with these things and the way that I try and take it kind of from the platform engineering perspective is that you build a system for this. And then when people add their component, let's say into the catalog in Backstage, right? They need to say, which APIs do I depend on? Now, and which ones do I provide? Why does that matter? Because what I basically say is great. Anyone that is dependent on me, I will do contract testing against in my tests, because I can easily make an API called the Backstage, get who I'm affected by, and run the contract tests against them. If you did not model yourself and you did not say I'm dependent on you, not my problem. If I broke you, that's not my problem, because you did not tell me that you are dependent on me, and therefore I'm not going to test you. And that is, I think, a good way to make people take responsibility for mapping what they're actually dependent on. And then every team has an API that is well built that they can then run their contract tests according to that dependency graph that gets built out.
That's I feel that it's a completely wrong direction in terms that when you're building something, let's say you're working on a backend that exposes API, your concern shouldn't be about specific services connecting to you and whether they will be broken or no. You should imagine that you don't know who is connecting to you. You should not care who is connecting to you, right? You care whether whomever is connecting to you can still work correctly when you make a new release and deploy it, no matter whether they upgraded or didn't.
But right? Victor, sometimes, I agree, but sometimes you have to break backwards compatibility, especially if it's, within a big company. Let's say you're implementing a spec and the spec changes. I'm in a bank and I'm implementing a bank specification, and the bank specification releases 2.0. Boom.
True.
How do I know who is broken and who is not broken?
True, but that should be happening so rarely that I put that rather as an exception that we'll deal with it somehow than something that I use frequently.
Okay, yeah,
right?
I'm not saying, this is the idea that will happen every day. I'm just asking the people that are buying coding what I'm missing right now. And if this, solves, I know, two instances of downtime for me per year, I'm happy. It doesn't have to be an everyday scenario.
But in your scenario, you assume that there will be a downtime, right? You cannot not have downtime.
If I don't know what is happening, I will have downtime. Like people will see their applications broken and they will hunt me down and say, what did you change? And so on and so on. Always talking in the context of big companies.
Yeah, but I'm talking about, it's not that you might have downtime. If you release something that is not backwards compatible, downtime is unavoidable. That's what I'm saying. No matter what you do. Because
not necessarily. Not necessarily. Because the client, what if the client can support both versions?
Exactly.
The client can add support for both versions. And then
Scott, in that case, the server is backwards compatible.
No, the client is backwards compatible.
The client needs to make a modification. They are not backwards compatible yet, but because I know who will break, I tell them in advance. They release a new version where the client becomes backwards, and then I deploy my own. But in order to do this, I need to know who is dependent on me, like who is depending on what I offer.
I still feel that should be on you rather than them, kind of. I think that even if I release new major release that is not backwards compatible, I should still maintain the previous one version. It will be painful for me, but I should not propagate pain to others. That's my
here is
logic.
The idea. What Scott was talking about before. Can we automate this? Is there a fancy way? Let's say I deploy something in my cluster which looks like a service mesh. It's not a service mesh. It intercepts all traffic, and then automatically for me, it understands all the dependencies. So nobody has to do any work manually.
So it kind of does exist. It kind of exists if you look at Pixie. So Pixie, which does eBPF network visibility and observability, it basically understands and can build that entire network topology graph of who talks to what talks to what, with which API calls. It understands like SQL protocols, Rabbit protocols, Kafka protocols, Redis protocols, and actually can show you all the layer 7 traffic going between all the different services and build out that network topology graph for you.
But if I remember Pixie correctly, I need to run it. Like I need to run it and tell it to do something. I want something that's running there all the time.
Again, so Pixie is there, that always monitoring. It's always in the system. And then you can query it using a Pixie script saying, okay, who would be affected by this or who is using me? It is always observing. And then you can pull data from it. Think of it as Prometheus, Grafana together.
Okay,
Pixie,
so I need to pull data, put them into Backstage in the catalog, and then have my testing system pull from Backstage the dependencies, correct?
Either that or use Pixie. If you don't want to, if you want it to be auto-discovered, then do Pixie.
Just keep Pixie as a source of truth for everything, let's say, and then take the information from
because
there.
It pulls the source of truth from runtime, right? So it will show you who is talking to what because it sees all the network packets, as long as everything is running in the same Kubernetes cluster. The second it's in multiple clusters, you get issues.
So we are back to the classic hacker niches discussion where, somebody releases Dropbox, and the first answer is, I can do the same thing with FTP, Git, plus whatever. And he describes like a Linux-based solution that only works if you're an expert. So I want what I described for non-experts. Give me something that works out of the box. I don't want to do anything complex. Just give me a product, okay? I sign up, I pay you, I install it on my system, it's secure, and it gives me all this information. Please vibe code this today.
Yeah. I mean, not necessarily the area I would be focusing, but I mean,
that was my idea.
I do admit
Scott can explain his idea, and then you can explain your idea on what you're missing and what you want, people to create.
Okay. So what I'm missing, what I would really like, is I write docs for my app, and based on those docs, I get tests.
Tests.
Yes, it validates, kind of like, is the doc correct? Is the application correct? When I say execute this, that works or it doesn't, and all that stuff. Basically, I want doc-based testing.
But can you not do this today? Like if you give a doc to your agent or your LLM or your whatever
I tried,
AI,
it fails miserably. because it's complex, right? Kind of like, okay, so this is the feature X, but that feature X requires the setup over there, and the setup over there is in EKS, but you should be intelligent enough to spin up a kind cluster because you're running in a Kubernetes cluster. And
okay.
There is
So you are talking now about my second idea. I have a second idea. Can I talk about
Oh, there we go. But wait, park that idea. Let's go through questions, and then if there are no questions, we're gonna go back to the ideas.
Okay,
This is awesome. If not, you stay after the stream. Worst case scenario. Let's go. What are the best practices for organizing 20 plus GitHub Actions workflows across multiple repositories with different tech inside Java, Python, etc., so it's easier to trace failures and errors over time? I'm not a good person. I could not care about errors and failures over time, but one of you might care about those. I care about kind of like this failed right now, we're going to fix it right now. But I guess that many companies are not organized like that. So
I think maybe the question is errors about what? Like testing errors, tracing errors, like errors during runtime. I'm assuming if you're talking about GitHub Actions, they
it's
mean
probably
testing,
errors.
like normal testing.
Yeah, whatever actions, or let's forget about actions. Let's say pipelines, workflows, right? Workflows do stuff, build, publish.
Wait, I have two comments there. So first of all, if you have 20 GitHub Actions workflows, they are too many. You should have one per application type. So ideally, all your Java applications should have one workflow, or your Python applications should have one workflow. So first of all, check the documentation for GitHub Actions and how you can reuse workflows. And there are many ways you can use many workflows, create your own actions, whatever. I don't care about the details. That's number one. For number two, I think the application is called Report Portal, if I remember, that aggregates all your tests from all your runs, and you can go in and see test suites, test runs, results. Yep. So you don't really care about what the GitHub Actions did when they're running. You go to Report Portal and get nice dashboards after the fact about everything. And you don't really care if it's a Python application or a Java application. You just see test suites and test runs. So that's the second part. But make sure you also cover the first part first.
Yeah.
There we go. Oh, and look at Scott. He stopped Googling. He was Googling something.
No,
I'm pretty sure of that. No, you were looking
not at
inside.
all, but we completely agree.
Now, I also have an additional comment that if you have a small number of GitHub Actions, it makes also maintenance very easy, because at some point somebody will come to you and they will ask you to do something generic to all your GitHub Actions. So they might say, we need to, I don't know, sign our artifacts or test or something. So if you have a large number of GitHub Actions, workflows, I mean, you will have to hunt them down and make manual changes to all of them. But if you have, I don't know, 5 or 3 or 4, you say, I will make this change, and all my Java applications are covered. I make this change, and all my Python applications are covered, and so on and so on.
The only thing I would add there, and I don't think that this is specific to GitHub Actions, but any workflows, I have a strong belief that that those tools like GitHub Actions should just orchestrate automation defined somewhere else.
Okay, that's step 0.
Yeah, kind of like you should have your
whatever scripts. Whatever.
Make file, whatever it is. Kind of, if you want to go crazy, create a common CLI used across all of them. Whatever you want, I don't care. But kind of, they're just kind of execute A, execute B, execute C. That's what they do. So in my head, those questions are okay. So in that automation you did outside of GitHub Actions, how do you do X, Y, Z? Okay, now this is for Scott. But anybody can answer. But, I see, Scott, when you say there are 2 things that you can see that will make him smile, that's Flux and CAPI. So when using CAPI with CAPT, CAPBT, and CAPH, I'm experiencing issues with etcd voting when resizing control node. Is that a known bug? Don't Google it.
Scott, you need to.
I'm just trying to think what CAPT, CAPBT, and CAPH. They're obviously the providers for CAPI because it's ClusterAPI provider. I'm guessing H is probably ClusterAPI provider Hetzner, just because I know that there is a Hetzner one, and I think that's what CAPH is. But if you can write here what those are, I have no clue what CAPPT or CAPBT are, though. So if you can write It's Bootstrap. It's ClusterAPI provider Bootstrap something is my guess, because we have CAPBK for Bootstrap KubeADM, and all of that. But yeah, I need you to tell me what CAPBT, CAPBT, and CAPH mean. Hetzner and Talos. Okay, ClusterAPI provider for Talos for the control plane and the Bootstrap. I have not seen that issue. However, I will say that I do not use Talos personally. I try to stay away from it and use just standard CAPBK and KCP, simply because it is the standard. It is what's mostly tested within Kubernetes. It works with everything. I prefer Cloud Init over Ignition every day of the year. Personally, and yeah, so I don't like weird things. And Talos would be a better way if we were starting Linux today. My issue with it is the same thing. I think Talos is very similar to WASM in that sense. It may be better than containers, but it's not enough of a value that I get from Talos that would make me use it. So yeah, I've never seen that. My guess is that has something to do with CAPBT then, because I've never seen that issue in CAPI directly. Yeah.
Okay. Next one. What's the best solution for performing local offline development? C++, TypeScript, Python can be connected at setup time, but must be air-gapped at dev time. Intel Core, blah, blah, blah. 32 gigs. I'm not sure there is...
If the question is about Kubernetes local development, we have some answers. If it's generic one, I don't see like where it's
I guess the question depends on kind of like, is it directly related to development of something, or how that something connects to the rest of the system, right? And then those would be different solutions, right? Kind of.
Right. The only thing that I would say is that if you're talking specifically TypeScript, that's the only one that I've really done this in. I would do like a Verdaccio server, Verdaccio, whatever. I would use that. That's what I've used in the past, which is a way of spinning up a really lightweight local NPM registry and just fill it up with all of your dependencies and all of that. Because sometimes in TypeScript, you do want to just like yarn clean. You want to clean it out, or whether you're using yarn, whatever tool you're doing.
It's TypeScript. You need to download whole internet to run Hello World.
It's not nearly as bad as it used to be, Viktor.
Okay.
Come on. You write stuff in TypeScript today.
If this is about Kubernetes specifically, you can check any of the many solutions like Tilt, Garden, Scaffold, and whichever I don't remember, that are specifically for local development. And they are helping orchestrate services and have them connect between each other. If this is about the aspect of if this is an aspect of your question,
I feel that those you mentioned are more like how do I run my stuff, which is one part of the story, and then there is the other part of the story. How do I connect my stuff to production-like environment so that it can kind of communicate with other stuff?
But he talks about air-gapped. So if you're air-gapped, there is no production-like environment. You need to launch everything on your laptop. Is there any other solution if you're air-gapped?
I mean, I'm guessing that air-gapped can mean...
It depends what you're air-gapped from. If you're air-gapped from production, that's very different than your air-gapped from the internet, right? This seems offline, from my understanding, is air-gapped from the internet, at which point you still have access to your production, right?
Yeah, this is what
it doesn't have to be production. It can be staging or whatever, but you're rarely limited literally on your laptop, right?
Right. Now, if you're specifically, I see that you wrote just general development with AI and LLMs later on in a later comment. With that, when it comes to AI LLMs and stuff, if you're running those locally, my favorite is LM Studio. However, I would say look at Azure Foundry Local, which is a really easy SDK that's also OpenAI compatible that makes it really easy and dumb to run LLMs locally. LM Studio has more capabilities, and I like it. So that's what I personally use for running local AI.
I feel that you're answering more on individual level. if you're a company, I would assume an airgapped, and you want LLMs, you would probably, as a company, run it somewhere and then let your people connect to it, right? Rather than run it on your laptop. The
Correct.
LLM
I'm
itself.
just taking this from what was said there of Intel Core Ultra 5 saying what resources and all that.
Yeah.
For that, I say use, whatever. You can run things through LM Studio on CPUs. Just make sure to send a prompt and then go to sleep. And about 9 hours later, the prompt will be over. But it will work.
But buy more memory. 32 is not enough. Okay, buy more memory.
Yeah,
32 can be enough for certain like Qwen 3B, whatever. That can be fine. The issue is the GPU and how much access of memory it has, right? How much really you have and really how much bandwidth you have for memory bandwidth.
But man, once you get used to, I don't know, like Kimis of the world,
you need
running
terabytes.
locally. Running locally is not an option anymore. Okay. Any thoughts on Google acquiring Wiz? Is this finally the competition to Sentinel and Defender? I'm actually surprised that they didn't acquire Wiz or something similar earlier. Kind of like, those companies are money-making machines.
Yes, security is always money.
Yeah, because nobody can say no to security. You can say, no, I will not run it in Kubernetes, but you can not say, no, I will not be secured because you like your position in a company.
Yeah, or people skip testing, but they never skip security if they can.
No, wait, no. Okay, now you're terribly wrong. People skip security all the time. They never skip saying, no, I will not pay.
Not developers, higher ups.
Yeah.
And they need to pay and approve stuff.
Yeah, exactly. You will pay a couple of millions for a security solution that might end up that nobody's using, but you will buy it.
It doesn't matter. You're covered. Okay, you're secure.
I'll keep my mouth shut on this one because I have people that I like at Google and at Wiz. I'll keep my mouth shut on that.
Okay, there we go.
We can follow this and maybe another one, see what happened with this acquisition. Maybe it was the best thing ever, or maybe it will be one of those killed by Google, whatever products.
Oh, statistically, it's gonna be killed. Statistically, it is very likely to be killed by Google. Kind of statistically. I'm not saying that will happen, but statistically looking at it, we might never hear about it again, or it might be killed 2 years from now. We'll see.
Okay, but Viktor, today, can we say what our thoughts today? You say it's a good move, correct?
Yeah, it's a great move.
So for today, the answer is it's a good move. Security is always popular, and you can make money from security. That's the answer for today.
Oh, yeah. Okay. What's this? LGTM stack versus just running ClickHouse all up as a backend for OpenTelemetry. I haven't used ClickHouse. Any of you?
I like ClickHouse a lot.
I haven't used it.
I love ClickHouse, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's your comment. I love ClickHouse.
I do. Again, I also like the Grafana stack, right? I think that from my experience, ClickHouse from a scaling perspective is awesome. It does a really good job with scalability. I've really liked it. The Grafana stack, I really do like Grafana. I don't like their choice of license personally because I like more open licensing of Apache licensing in MIT and whatever. However, I say what Grafana built is amazing. So either one would work well. It's really what you feel more comfortable with, in my mind.
Very cool. My camera is going off. Okay. Any of you? I'm not aware of what happened with GitHub Actions AI attack. Any of you knows?
You don't know this? It's okay. Great topic. So
okay,
for the
give me the
audience,
gist of it.
Yeah, the gist of it. There was an attack on several GitHub repos. The most popular one was Thrivey. Thrivey, the security scanner, disappeared for 1 or 2 days from Aqua. And the reason was a series of exploits, which I think were done automatically by an agent, like not a human. And for some of them, they did, some damage, but Privy was, let's say, the most popular one because they had to make the project disappear until, they fixed things. All of them had to do with GitHub Actions, and most of them had to do with misconfigurations at GitHub Actions. So as soon as this appeared, everybody, including, our company, they rushed and they said, check our GitHub Actions. Are we compatible or not? So that's the gist.
This was the one where like allowing people to run actions from a forked version of the repo, right? That when you created a PR from a fork, it triggered the action, which then has access to specific tokens that are saved within the GitHub action, within the repo of the core, and we're able to do things.
Okay, so I have a comment here. Victor, can I talk before?
Go for it.
If you look at GitHub Actions, and I thought I knew GitHub Actions, you can say pull request. When there is a pull request, do this. And by default, if somebody creates a fork and they have a pull request, they do whatever they want to do in their own fork. Nothing, can touch your own original repo. But somebody at GitHub approved and thought it was a great idea to have a second option, which I think the name is pull request target. I think that the default is pull request happened, and there is a pull request target, a second option that allows the fork to have access to your stuff. And I'm saying this now. I don't know who approved this and who thought it was a good idea, but even listening to this is not a good idea, let alone, approving it.
Actually, I discovered that a while ago that somebody created a PR on one of the projects and kind of like, oh, GitHub Actions is not running. And then I discovered that it was a while ago that actually by default, it doesn't run when PRs are coming from outside.
But this is something different. You can enable PRs on your own forked repo, but they will still run against your own, the fork that you just made. Okay, that's completely different.
But you need to enable it specifically, right?
You need to enable it. But by default, nothing happens. Okay, let's start day 0. I fork something. By default, nothing is running. I need to go and enable on my fork GitHub Actions and say, hey, all the actions that were part of the original fork, I want them to run on my fork as well. But by default, again, they will run in your own context. Okay, they will have access to your own stuff, whatever is in your stuff. And there is a separate, completely different option where the original person says, no, run the PR of your fork with access to my stuff. Who thought this was a good idea?
So I think that the reason for it, again, and it's a major security thing, and I think that it should have to be requests from the repo doing the fork, and then that has to be approved by the maintainer of that. But the reason for that is, like, I can tell you as someone who worked on like CAPV, the ClusterAPI provider vSphere, right? In order to actually test that, you need a live vSphere environment that was connected with GitHub Actions. For that, the setup of the VPN and all the connectivity to get to a VMware Cloud on AWS hosted environment that was provisioned by VMware and donated to the CNCF in order to do all of these things, and it was run there, it was impossible to expect anyone with a fork that was working on the project to be able to actually, for any of the maintainers that everyone was working on a fork and then contributing back, how are they supposed to actually test any of these things through the actual GitHub Actions workflow? So it was built for use cases like that, where it's actually targeting specific things that it's very hard for anyone else to build out. I think that from a security perspective, just having a button saying, yeah, allow people to run things on mine is a horrifying idea. It should be, I create a fork, I create a request to the source repo saying, allow me access from my fork to your testing infra. And then they allow it for Scott. They allow it for Kostis. They allow it for Viktor. They allow it on a per person basis. That I think would be fine. I'm
still confused that anybody enabled that in Trivia.
So Scott,
Trivia makes no sense.
Yeah, Scott, I agree with you. But let's check if those compromised repositories actually needed this capacity or not.
My guess is 99% did not.
No. And also, I checked the documentation after the incident. Like, if this feature existed, I would put a big red box in the documentation saying, if you enable this, you should know what you're doing. You should understand the security implications. Please, take responsibility for your actions. So they know. This does not exist in the documentation.
sign here, and we will put a day when you are fired by your own consent.
Sign with your blood. Sign
Exactly.
with your blood.
Oh my God. I had no
And
idea
also,
that happened.
one final thing. This was the highlight that I remember. I think some of the other, vulnerabilities were something else. But the one that I remember was this, that the pull request target stuff was allowing you to run pull requests against the original repo. So check the original blog post. There is a blog post that is, floating around.
Yeah.
It has all the details.
Exactly. And what people were able to do then in that GitHub action, Viktor, is because people gave it full GitHub access, basically, they were just pulling all of the secrets and sending them out through a webhook because the GitHub action is sitting in the fork. The one that's running is in the fork, just running in the context of the PR. So they were just doing whatever they wanted, changing stuff, doing absolute garbage in the CI, and then destroying the repo.
I'm now picturing people typing in Cloud Code or whatever they're using. Can you analyze this blog post and tell me whether we are fucked? That's what I'm imagining happening right now during this session and probably before. Okay, so what tools or approaches can be used to centrally orchestrate and govern CI pipelines across hundreds of repositories while enforcing mandatory validation steps like security scans, lint tests, etc., etc.? This is too long for me to digest, so I don't know.
So my general answer to this is that, in those types of use cases, this is where I think that the harness platform is probably the best at doing this. They've built in a really interesting approach, which is OPA policy as code that goes over all the pipe.
Which harness you're talking? The company called Harness?
Yeah, exactly.
This is our competitor. Please don't say this.
Yeah,
again.
Okay. Let Kostis answer. Code
I
fresh.
think that for that, it's that. However,
Octopus deploy. There we go.
So very possibly, I don't have experience with Octopus deploy, so I can say that from what I've seen, it's harness. The other thing that I would say though is if you are running your CI pipelines with Tekton / Argo Workflows, if you want to go the open source approach, it's very easy to write pipeline validation policies because it's Kubernetes YAML manifests in, say, Kyverno, and not allow anyone to apply a workflow that doesn't have specific steps within it, right? Require certain steps and just create Kyverno policies that would block it, or create OPA policies that would block it. Because the second it's in Kubernetes, it's easy to set those admission webhooks, whether it's Argo Workflows, Tekton, whatever.
My short answer is go to Google and search Octopus Deploy Platform Hub, and it's exactly what you're searching, okay? Or you can do it on your own, as we said before, if you have a small number of GitHub actions and to check stuff and you have used GitHub actions for CI and CD, then go to this small number of GitHub actions and make your changes centrally. But Platform Hub, Octopus Deploy, that's my answer.
Okay. Viktor, you're still on team. It is cheaper to use hosted LLMs. I am. And just to be clear, I received a bunch of hate emails and messages and what's not on that topic. Let me clarify something. I'm on team, use hosted LLMs, assuming that we are comparing apples with apples, not apples with oranges. So if somebody says, I can run paying for Kimi 2.5 for Opus is not a good idea, I should run Qwen 0.8 billion parameters on my machine, that's not a valid comparison. That's all I'm saying. I don't know if any of you do any of you like self-hosting inference and things that cheaper, unless you're a huge company with 100,000 employees.
No, I understand the why. Okay, there are many cases. First of all, maybe you want to play. If you're a company, like a big company, maybe you have strict security requirements and you have some, a legislation that says you cannot run stuff there. Forget about, specific stuff.
100%.
Any kind of stuff. So then you have to do it. Okay, so it's a choice. But the answer is it depends what you want and
wait. It says that it is cheaper. I'm kind of that you should run inference for there's gazillion reasons why you should run it. Yes, but it's not cheaper. That's what I'm saying.
Depends what is cheaper for you. Cheaper for money, cheaper for time, cheaper for auditing problems. Cheaper for what?
Yeah. Fair enough.
Again, I think that the default today, if you need to self-host for security reasons, you should self-host because it is better to self-host than not to have anything. With the speed that things are moving today, I think that having the hosted solution from someone else is going to be cheaper in the short-term period until we stabilize and understand, because we're getting all these new processing units because GPUs are not efficient actually at running AI. Right? GPUs are not the right thing. We have better specialized processing units that are being built directly for this that we're seeing from the different LLM hosting providers and inference providers, right? So once that stuff becomes actually more stabilized and we understand what's going to be needed and the LLM world kind of stabilizes a bit more, that's when I will be 100% on the side of you should be self-hosting stuff. Now, self-hosting also can mean different things because self-hosting can be your own data center. And then there's the self-hosting of hosting it on Azure Foundry in your own account or on AWS Bedrock in your own account. That I believe people should be doing, right? You should be doing inference, not using OpenAI public. You should be using Azure OpenAI, let's say, hosted version, yours within your network account that doesn't leak anything, right? Run Anthropic through AWS Bedrock or Azure Foundry or any of those models. Don't go and buy the hardware today that's going to be irrelevant for the model that comes out in a year. At this point, unless you need to.
Okay. What's your, by the way, I'm disappointed in both of, on all of you watching that you're not asking questions that will make those two people fight, but okay. What's your preference for agnostic policy as code, OPA or Kyverno? I'm not sure that any of them is agnostic to begin with, but I'm a team Kyverno. And I'm a team Kyverno cell by default and whatever, Kyverno JSON or whatever it's called when needed. I don't know about the two of you.
I want to make an additional plug specifically for Kyverno for something almost related but not related. Recently, I discovered Chainsaw, which is the testing framework that Kyverno released, and I love it. I love it. Okay.
Yes.
I'm also, apart from Argo Rollouts, I'm the maintainer of the Gateway API plugin for Argo Rollouts, and I just converted all the tests to Chainsaw, and it's amazing. Okay. Whoever thought this, yes. So I can send you my PR. I threw all this Go code, okay, away, and now it's all. This is what I have in the cluster initially. This is what I apply. This is what I expect. Best thing ever. Go and check it out.
Your problem, Kostis, is that whenever we go to KubeCon, you always successfully avoid parties. Come to the parties, I'll introduce you to Charlie, the guy behind JSO.
Okay. So what I can say is I was always a Kyverno fan over OPA because I think that one of the worst things that exist on planet Earth. Sorry, I have to go.
Stay safe. Come on.
Finish
his sentence.
Okay.
These are the problems with the situation.
We got $5 from OK Value. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Now, let's see, where were we? Never run actions automatically. That's why I don't configure the wait. Okay.
It's about the previous question about GitHub Actions.
On which one? Never run actions on foreign PRs. That's more like a statement.
The previous one.
Yeah. I have actually, I have a separate GitHub Actions that I need to trigger. So my GitHub Actions are triggered automatically on PRs coming from the same org. And then I have a separate one that is more or less the same, but I'm triggering it when somebody submits a PR, kind of, after I review it and see that no silly things were done and all that stuff.
I mean, for me, the problem is simplicity. You should have so simple GitHub Actions that, let's say, nobody can exploit them. Check out code, compile the code, run tests, create an artifact. That's it. No fun stuff.
But sometimes, create artifact means release artifact. Release artifact means there is a secret that needs to be there for you to be able to push to some artifact repository.
That's a separate one. That's a separate. Yeah. That's a GitHub action for release that I only run. I'm talking about the pull request action. The pull request.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Okay.
Fair enough. Yeah. Depends. Sometimes, for example, I have a bunch of on pull on that actually for testing I need to create, let's say, a kind cluster, and to that client cluster I need to deploy that application. To deploy I need to kind of temporarily build the image and push it somewhere, and it can get complicated. But yes, you're right. Avoid secrets altogether.
Avoid fancy stuff. Avoid fancy and complex.
Yeah. Okay. Now, this one is complicated, and that's what chaos engineering platform would you recommend for Kate, for Kubernetes? And I haven't used chaos engineering tools for like 2 years, so I'm not up to date. I don't know about you.
The answer is your junior developers. Use your junior developers. Tell them to break production.
But, I feel that this is one of the, just because we mentioned before, I think that this is one opportunities, because the problem in the past, I don't know how they work now, but in the past, the problem I saw with the tools like for chaos engineering is that you need to define what should be broken and how, and then you see whether system recuperates from that and what happens and all that stuff, right? And the problem I had in the past, again, I'm not up to date with those tools, is that they're trying to validate that known potential issues are not issues. And I'm more interested in unknown issues. Go and break. Go and break random things. Kind of like, don't wait for me to tell you what to break. Just kind of go wild, right? And that's I think that's where junior developers would do a better job than those tools.
My official answer there is that I think you need to work in a company that has a specific level of maturity until you have reached this stage. Like the majority of the companies I see, they don't need like an engineering platform for breaking stuff. They already break stuff on their own, either by junior developers or senior developers. So either you're working, in a really good company, so maybe you already have done your choice, or you need, to see, have you solved everything else? Like everything is working perfectly, and this is now the problem that you have to face. I'm not so certain.
Okay, what do you think about Holmes GPT? That's the one from, what's the name? Robusta, yeah.
Robusta.
I had one big complaint that prevented me from using it and really knowing how good embedded is. And that problem is that I don't want to go out of whichever agent I'm using to something else. I think that something else should be connected to my agent. I don't know whether this is philosophical, right? Imagine that I'm in Cloud Code, for example. That's my agent of choice, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and I would like Holmes GPT to kind of hook into it. And when it comes the moment that from Cloud Code I need to do something that is related to what Holmes GPT does, just calls. I want Cloud Code to calls Holmes GPT. I don't want to separate CLI. That was my issue.
I'm also saying evaluate several other solutions, like maybe this was one of the first ones. And if it doesn't work for you, I think there are many projects in the same area right now. And Viktor is creating something similar, or let's say close, or not?
Yeah. Viktor is playing around like it's a toy.
See, I'm plugging for you, Viktor, yes?
Yeah, I just kind of like, I don't know, you know me from before. I don't know how to do marketing. I don't know those things. Kind of like, my logic with things is kind of like, I do things and they exist. And then, I don't know, somebody might discover it. Okay, AI on EKS is a good project to get started with self-hosting LLMs. Yeah, on Inferentia Tranium, they have Helm charts as well. I don't know what is Inferentia. Do you know what is Inferentia?
No, maybe it's like a misspelling.
Yeah, because when you tell me kind of like EKS, my brain computes AWS and my brain
service. It's an Amazon service. AWS Inferentia.
Okay, but that's competing with their Bedrock then.
You know what AWS does.
Yeah, kind of like they have 57 services for everything. Kind of like my brain is still, I know Bedrock. I don't know. I haven't tried it. But if it's cool, yeah, why not? I second what Scott said, that if if I need to host it myself, or let's say not want to use, I don't know, Anthropic API or whatever you're using, things like Bedrock sound like, or Inferentia probably, which I haven't tried, sound like a good solution.
It seems this is a chip. It's not a service, it's a chip.
Chip. Okay. Cool. Yeah, that's happening. That's probably the same one. What's the name? Similar like the one from Google. What's the name? My brain froze.
That one, yeah, I don't remember either. And Trainium is like a family of purpose-built AI accelerator chips.
Yeah. But that's the problem, right? Kind of like if you're self-hosting, like in your data centers, then those are extremely expensive. Which ones do you buy today? Kind of like, right? It's tough, man. I was checking Home GPT yesterday. Very nice. Very cool. I mean, folks are great. I know Robusta folks.
The team is great, okay? I love them as well.
Oh, yeah. What's next? Litmus Chaos is my favorite chaos engineering tool. Yeah, that's the one I used back in the day when I used those. Okay, best way to do DB migrations in Kubernetes environment in a container separate service or something else. I don't know, you, Kostis, I go with Atlas.
Come on, yes. I have a whole presentation. If you search my name plus Atlas, you will find a presentation at KubeCon from me and the creator of Atlas, where we talk about this specific topic. And no, you shouldn't use Flyway or Liquidbase or any other CLI tools. They don't know what is happening in the database. They're just a black box. Take Atlas, which is a Kubernetes operator specifically for database migrations.
Correctly.
Not init containers, not separate services, not this.
I mean, I get surprised that these days, and it's been like 10 years or so since we got CRDs, that people are still kind of, I'm going to run a pod. And that's going to be specialized in something like the database migration. So just say no.
One of the most popular questions I get in the Argo CD channel is this. I'm using a pre-sync hook and I run Liquidbase or Flyway and whatever, and it runs fine the first time, but then there is another sync and it runs again, and I don't want it to run again, and why it's running again, and I don't know what's doing. Don't fall into this trap. Just go and use Atlas.
The major issue I have with Atlas is the name. It's close to impossible to Google it.
To search, and it goes with Mongo. Which one? Has
because you search Atlas and that's kind of infinite number of results for Atlas that has nothing to do with that, and then you say, I'm clever. I'm gonna search Atlas DB, and then you get Mongo, and
you search Atlas Go. Atlas Go.
There you go. What else? Inf2 on Spot instance is pretty cheap, and they even have implementation which uses efficient Kubernetes patterns like leader worker set. Is that related to the inference?
Yeah, I think it's the same person as the inference. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. What are you guys using as CacheDB on Kubernetes? Using an operator Redis, you need to pay to use the operator. Valky doesn't have an official operator. Seems like Dragonfly is the only option. Oh, are you safe? You're alive. We know that much.
I am. Yes.
Welcome back, Scott.
Thank you.
So
good to be back.
The question: what are you guys using as cache database on Kubernetes? Using an operator Redis, you need to pay to use the operator. Valky doesn't have an official operator. Seems like Dragonfly is the only option. I don't have much experience with Dragonfly. I always struggled with it somehow, and abandoned it eventually. Redis doesn't have an operator, or an operator is commercial.
Yeah, I didn't know about this either. This is news for me as well.
Yeah.
Again, there are Valky operators out there. There isn't an official one, but there are operators that exist, and I personally am a Valky fan. But I think whether it's Valky or Redis, I think either one is very good. SAP have their Valky operator, and SAP do a very good job typically of maintaining open source projects. And they do everything Apache 2 licensed, which I like. So yeah, that's what I would go with from that perspective. I've never liked Dragonfly at any level whatsoever.
Yeah. I cannot even say that it never worked for me, to be honest. But yeah.
And the truth of the matter is that my general opinion on all of those things, though, is if you're running in a cloud, use the managed version of Redis, Valkey, whatever it is, and use Crossplane or ACK or whatever, or ASO or whatever the hell Google call their controllers to provision that service and run it in the cloud and make it easier for yourself.
Yeah, well, I would extend that if you're running in cloud and you need a database, use managed database of any sorts, whatever it is, unless the budget does not allow it.
Manage it through Kubernetes.
Oh, yeah.
Using Crossplane, ACK, ASO, whatever. Yeah.
Okay, we are 5 minutes before we close. No more questions. Type fast. And until then,
Until
Kostis
then,
will tell
I
us
will
a
say
joke.
what my thing was. Because Kostas mentioned at the beginning what his dream that people would develop is.
Oh, yeah,
I
go
have
for it.
one.
Go for
What
it.
I want to finally be developed is I want there to be a system where I want this to happen in Artifact Hub, or it can be a separate project. But Artifact Hub is the de facto place where all CNCF projects put where they're all registered, right? All the Helm charts, whatever it is. What I want is a standardized format / API where everyone can define in a standard way what version of Kubernetes they support from which version to which version in their thing, and what dependency versions they support. I require cert manager between this version and this version. I require this between this version and that version. If that metadata was standardized by the Kubernetes ecosystem, by Artifact Hub, whatever, and then you had an API, things like kubepug, which Ricardo Katz built, who's awesome, right? In kubepug, the kubectl deprecations, all of those plugins that allow us to make upgrading safer would actually be valuable, because right now it's only the core Kubernetes APIs. And the truth of the matter is that core Kubernetes APIs are basically stable today. So what really matters is the APIs between cert manager makes a breaking change and I only support this version of the API or whatever. And I still can't understand how we as the CNCF don't have something like that. But that is my hope, that someone would actually build out that standard, be it in Artifact Hub, be it somewhere else, with an API that could be tested.
So you want a dependency graph for infrastructure applications. I want a dependency graph for normal microservices. So everybody needs a dependency graph. That's the whole idea.
I don't need dependency graph. I want my documentation to be tested.
Yes.
Viktor, yours is super easy. I think at some point the agents will create it, and then you will be happy. And we will still wait for
I'm 100% sure that LLMs can do it. It's just kind of like some specialized agent is required that kind of guides it through it instead of, LLMs throwing random nonsense at me. I haven't used MongoDB in like 3-4 years, so I don't know this fun thoughts on MongoDB or Percona operator. Last time I used it, it was horrible, but that was early days, so I don't know how it's today.
Again, so I am a huge fan of MongoDB. I really have always hated Percona's operators. I think that they are not good operators from my perspective. They don't follow the right standards and anything for that. When it comes to MongoDB, the best one that I've seen is from, CubeDB.
CubeDB, that's a good one.
CubeDB built a very good one around that because, again, they understand that it is not about build me a manifest that literally replicates my entire MongoDB configuration files inside of one single CR where I do everything, but it's to have a bunch of different CRs for my backups, for the configuration, for logical databases, for schemas, for this, for that, for this, for all the different elements. And it's actually a full operator that covers all of those things versus just, I have one CR and it creates a stateful set under the hood. So why do I need you? I could just use a Helm chart that has a stateful set. If you don't have specific logic in it, it's not worth it for me.
My golden standard, and this is not MongoDB, but everybody else should take a look at it, that's CMPG. It's just awesome.
Yes.
Kind of like they really know how to, they understand databases and Kubernetes. It's very often kind of like, I understand the database. How hard can it be porting it to Kubernetes? Okay.
Right. By the way, this is just one example. If you're example CR manifest in GitHub, I just looked at the Percona MongoDB one, is 957 lines. Your example CR manifest, okay, with commented out sections and whatever, but 957 lines. There's an issue with your CR. That's all I can say. If that's your example, there's a bit of an issue.
But those are the cases where I'm pretty sure that authors of that one would not accept it with anything else that they use in Kubernetes, but somehow for their stuff is okay.
Yes,
I'm pretty sure that.
Of course.
Yeah,
your
kind
baby
of
is different than the other babies. Always.
Exactly, because we are special, but kind of like, oh, I would never use Argo CD, or I would never use Flux if I would need a doctorate to understand how a single CR works. But for us,
you do for an Argo CD application, but that's a whole nother.
Okay, I tried to poke it, and it's not working. Okay, what is the future of CNIs in Kubernetes, like the eBPF Cilium? I'm not sure. Is any really movements happening there, or that's kind of done deal, right? On CNI level, I'm not talking about meshes, just to be clear here.
Right. Again, it's kind of like, again, it's very hard to say because still the majority of people, the largest distribution of Kubernetes is still EKS. And the vast majority of EKS users are still using VPC CNI because it is the default and most people don't change that default. Now, does that mean that you shouldn't? Again, should you or not? I have always, again, and that really depends on how much of your stuff is in Kubernetes, how much is out, and how much are you going to benefit from having the direct ENI VPC networks for your pods and routable pods and all that, right? Which gets into whole different topology questions and whatnot. But overall, I think Cilium is a great choice. We're seeing that in telco that I've worked with and talked to, a lot of them are using Antria. Just because Open vSwitch its backend has more capabilities for certain things when it comes to telco of multiple networks when you need, all these weird networking topologies with multi-MAC VLAN overlaying networks and yada yada stuff that I don't even understand. So we see that used there. Calico is heavily used still today because it was the de facto standard. Very much so.
Okay.
Very much so still.
I don't know.
It still is very much. And I'll tell you why it is. You have companies that have Kubernetes clusters that have been being upgraded since 1.5, 1.6, right? That have long-term Kubernetes clusters that have been with Calico, that have fine-tuned Calico. Calico has some very good performance capabilities today, and they have an eBPF mode as well, by the way. Not just Cilium. Calico does as well. So there are people that are using it because it's what they know.
My brain froze after you said Kubernetes 1.5, and I haven't digested anything after that. I don't know what you said after that. And that's how we close this show. Thank you, everybody. We are out of time. See you all next week.